right? We learned about all the events of the component cycle. So next, we will see one simple example of how we can manage that, right? Okay. So next, today what we will see is a simple example of how do we define these one of these events, how we can manage them. In other examples, I will show you other events. Just one simple example I will show you here. Let's see how we can identify and how we can see the phase working in our Angular application. That phase is, yeah. Yeah, so that is the phase. Let's see how we can handle this, right? So we will see one example of change detection. We will see one example of change detection. Means how actually that happens and how it works, the change detection works. Yeah, so usually, as we already discussed, change detection. So it is managed under ng on changes, right? So on ng on changes, and important, it sets the value, it binds the value, and detect the changes in value, and it will update the changes to model. So these are all actually the activities performed in ng on changes. So change detection in Angular, it includes setting the value, binding the value. So, and setting the value means it sets the value, and binding the value means it binds the value to the view. So sets the value to property, binds the value to property. So property actually in HTML, property in actually it is one of the live examples for change detection. How this actually works, if you remembered, I told you So when we work with the model, I told you that model is so model is single source of truth. That means so it binds the data to value. It binds the data, identifies the changes in the data, updates those changes actually. That I explained there. And usually change detection so is identified and managed component, let's put a property here, right? So we are just defining a property. Initially, it doesn't have anything else in the cycle, right? It just have a property. So public, so say username is equal to some John. That is what we define. Okay. Now this we have to send into the page. We have to send into the child component. Send into the child component. So first option is from here we need to send value. Then I will go to send value HTML and I will design a simple screen. So div class as container fluid. Okay. And we have a header. And here we defined, so this is a parent component. That means here we have parent, okay, component. Just anything we can give, right? And there is a text box, input type is equal to text. We will bind that value coming from that ng model. And so that is username. We are binding that username here. Okay, so whatever the username we defined here, it should be sent into the child component. That means here we want to access the child component. That means app, we have display value, that is the child component. Usually, so the display value is working. Fine. Okay. So that is general approach. That means display value is working. Just I keep this class form group. Okay. So that is configuring and displaying the value there. Okay. So, and let's keep this also into a form group. So user can enter some text. So class as form group. Fine. So this is defined there. Okay. Now we have some data we need to send into the child component. Then in the child component, there should be some value that can accept the input from you and display. So that means we need to send this username into this child component. So that means the display value. Let's go to the display value component. In the display value component, so here we have to collect the value. And we need to use that collected value. Initially, I am removing all the default implementations it is having. And here we need one property which can accept the value. And we can design with input and input public username. So this is a property which can accept the username and it should display in its page. So in its page, it should display that. So I will just keep a div and here I will say hello and that username. So that will be displayed there. Now this we need to send data. That means display value is having a property called username. Into that we will pass the username coming from the parent component. From the parent component, whatever the username is coming, we are sending that into this child component and it is displaying it. So actually that John is displayed here. That means the binding is happening. It is transporting the data, it is accessing the data and displaying the data. So actually in the background, ng on changes is working. Suppose I make any change inside this, then it will be updated there. That means it is identifying the changes and updating the changes here. Let's check this, how it is identifying the changes and updating the changes. Let's verify that. How it is possible, we will verify that. So we will do one important point here. So the child component, so this is the child component. So that means, just for our understanding sake, here I will keep a heading. So it is child component. So in the child component, we are displaying that hello John. So we are making any changes, it is updating into the child component. Actually, internally, those events are working for you. Internally, all the events are working for you. That means the component lifecycle related events, or you can say methods, so are by default managing all these activities. If we want some explicit functionality also, so if we want some explicit functionality to happen, technically some explicit functionality to happen, then we can write those events, implement those events and define. That means already they are working in the background. I want some more additional functionality to happen in the change detection. So then how we can manage that? So let's see. Actually, what I'm doing here is how the child component knows, that the value in the parent component have changed. So who will notify the change to this child component? That means any change occurred in the parent component to be notified to the child component, then it will update the changes. So that means who is going to notify the changes? So when it is going to notify the changes, on which phase it is going to notify the changes happening in the component. So for that, what we are doing is how child component knows that some changes are happening. This is our child component, how it knows changes are happening. To identify that, I am using here, I'm importing two more options from Angular core. One is the event on changes. On changes is the event. Remember, on changes is the base from where you can create ng on changes. So on changes is the base from where you can create ng on changes. Ng on changes is derived from on changes. And we will use another object called simple changes. So simple changes will provide the properties which will identify what changes occurred actually. So identifying the changes is managed by using this simple changes. In which phase it will manage? On changes. That means on changes, simple changes is going to identify the changes happening. How it will identify? You can go to definition of simple changes. You see, simple changes is an ordinary interface. It's an ordinary interface. This is a simple changes interface. And actually, this simple change interface having a property. So, and the property is a string type property. It is of type simple change. Properties of type simple change. So simple changes are derived from simple change base class. Go to definition of simple change. So simple change, you can see that it is having previous value, current value. Is it the first change or several number of times the change is occurred? Is it the first change or not? That also you can identify by using Boolean. Previous value can be any value. Next, the current value can be any value. If previous value and current value are not equal, that means some change occurred. So that is the option. And you can see there is a constructor into which the previous value will be passed and current value will be passed, and it will even identify whether it is the first change or not. It will return a boolean. So that means this is going to handle all your functionality. That is simple change, actually, simple change. So that means by accessing the values, so you should know that simple changes object identifies the changes in the property. Actually, simple changes uses. So simple change base class with the following attributes or with following properties. What are the properties of simple change base? We have the properties like we have previous value, we have like current value, so we have like first change. So previous value is any type, current value is any type, and first change is a boolean type. So it identifies, these are the values which can identify the changes happening in the component. Explicitly, so we will write now and we will see how it identify the changes actually. So display value should identify whether change happened or not. Then I will implement. So I want this component to use the members of that class. So I will implement on changes. So it is implementing on changes. On changes is an interface, right? That means you can implement multiple. Separated with commas, right? So because a class can implement multiple contracts here. Yeah. On changes. So is having two values which we can access. So I will declare those two values. One is previous value. I will keep previous value empty, and another current value. These are our own references we stored, and we will put some message. Now, whenever the change occurred, so when the change actually identifies, you can see that currently our component is implementing ng on changes contract. It is implementing that contract. It is showing error because in that contract there must be something which is mandatory to implement. Let's see, you can see that it says that so ng on changes is missing in the implementation. That means on changes having a property, you can go to definition, you can see on changes is an interface. It is having ng on changes method. It is not an optional method. And see here, ng on changes method is accepting an object. And what is that object? Changes object. This object contains, remember, this simple changes is of type simple change again. Simple changes is of type simple change. That means it contains the previous value, current value. So many properties are present inside it. So we need to implement this. And very important is, so this is not an optional property. It is a mandatory property. So optional parameter, it's a mandatory parameter inside this method. So in that case, you know that you have to implement in the same way. So what should I do now? We have to define. So we have to define ng on changes. And ng on changes have to implement the changes of what type? It is of type simple changes. So this is changes is an object. which contains all the properties of simple changes. That means what are the properties of simple changes? So we have previous value, current value, first change. These are the properties we are having. Now what we are doing here, simply we have to get those properties and verify the value. We have to get the properties. We need to define the properties and get the properties. That means ng on changes. So it identifies the changes happening inside your properties. By using which property it can identify. So we will see that. Because simple changes contains three properties, you have to access those three properties and their values. You have to access the three properties and their values. We have to access those properties and values. So you see, these are the three properties we are having, and those three properties will have some value. We have to access those values. So then we will create an iterator for var property in changes. That means by using in operator, you know that by using in operator we can read the properties, right? By using in operator we can read the properties as well as value also from that changes object. So I will create every property we will access. I will create a change of this change will get the changes of property. That means every property is now accessed by using this change. That means all the property related values are accessible by using this change. That means change contains, because this changes is an simple changes type, and simple changes is a simple change type. That means it contains some set of properties and values which we have to get. I'm accessing every property, and I am storing that property in the reference of change. So that means changes of property, that means it will get its value. So now we have two values to verify, current value, previous value. This dot current value is equal to change dot current value. You can see current value, previous value, first change is first change. These properties are accessible now. I will access current value. That means what is the current value? It will access that current value and store in this current value. Okay. Similarly, this dot previous value is equal to change dot previous value. That means whatever the changes happening, means whatever the values are present, the previous values and the current values. So from the properties present inside that particular parent component, we are accessing and storing here. Now we can have one simple option. What is that is? So this is identifying the changes. So current value contains the current value, previous value contains the previous value. We can identify whether the change occurred or not. I will write a condition like this. If this dot current value is equal to this dot previous value, current value and previous value both are same, then this dot msg, I will simply put a message that no change detected. That means no change detected. Else what should happen is this dot msg should display change detected. It should display change detected, right? So we can use so many things here. So here our main intention is to identify the changes, and I will display that message. In this display. Yeah, I will display that message here. I will put a heading and I will put that message here, MSG. And you can see here, when I load this, you can observe that it says change detected. It shows that change detected. That means it is displaying the message that change detected. So actually, so why change is detected? What is the point at all? That means here we say, so current value is matching with the previous value. When the current value is matching with the previous value, and if it is both are same, if both are same, then usually it should display the message. It should display the message that the message is nothing but it should show that there is no change detected, no change detected. But actually it is displaying that the change is detected. It is displaying that change is detected. That means some change has been detected. It is displaying that option that change detected. So you can see that that is what it is showing. Suppose I am entering some value here, some value here. It is still saying that change detected. But actually some previous value, current value modifications are happening. Then it should say that no change detected actually. That means here the point is whether the change occurred or not. That means actually ng changes fired up or not is verified by using the previous value and the current value, previous value and the current value. Now you observe carefully here, current value, previous value, if both are same, observe my point here carefully, right? So if both are same, then no change detected actually. And if different, some change happened, then it should say that change detected. In that case here, why it is displaying change detected even if I don't do any modifications inside it? Can you justify this sentence? Why it is saying that change detected? Why it is saying that change detected? If you can notice and you can tell answer for this, that means you perfectly understood. How you perfectly understood. How you can justify that? Because good, right? Yes, good. Right, good. So good. So you have good answers, right? Yeah. Actually, why this is shown in that way? Suppose see, suppose if there is no value, there is no value inside the parent. In the parent component, there is no value defined. There is no value defined. There is no value defined inside the parent component, no value defined. So then if there is no value defined, you see no change detected. Understood? You given good answers, but you missing one point. Can you observe and tell that point? So actually all your answers are good, but not on the spot correct answer. On the spot, it's not justifying actually. Why? Because so technically, if anyone asks like that, right? So what you said assigning C here, generally, what is what is what are the activities performed in on changes phase? Tell me, what are the activities performed on changes? Tell me. Yeah. So what are the options happening? First important is assigning the value and binding the property. Am I right? First is binding the properties. Am I right? Binding the property. Right. In that case, if a value is binded, right? If a value is assigned or binded, then obviously it is a part of change only, na? Understood, everyone? If a value is there and a value is binded, then it is a part of ng on changes only. Am I right? Understood, everyone? Right. That means if there is no value inside the parent and there is no binding happening to the values, then obviously no change detected. Are you clear? So we removed, there is no John. I removed that John username, na? There is no value at all in the property. Understood? I removed it. There is no value in that. Right? That means ng on changes. Now, don't think that it is only for changes. I hope everyone got clarity. Right? So what happens in ng on changes? What happens on ng on changes? First, the values are binded. The values are binded to properties. Now, currently in this case, is there any value to bind? Is there any value to bind? Is there any value to bind? No. That means if there is no value to bind, that means ng changes is not fired up. Am I right? Is not fired up, right? When you assign some value or you enter some value dynamically, you assign some value or enter some value dynamically. Suppose I am assigning some value. I'm assigning some value. Username is equal to John. Now this is under property binding. This is under on changes only, na? It should bind the value on changes. Am I right? It should bind the value on changes, right? And you can see that it identifies that change detected. Everyone understood? That means actually property binding with value is also under the concept of change. The concept of change. Am I right? Right. Okay, suppose if I am not defining any value into it, that means changes are not fired up because even there is no value at all. That means you can see no change detected. You can see that no change detected. Understood? Okay, now let's go here and type some value into it. Go here and type some value into it. Now change detected. Am I right? Hope you are clear. Right. That means now the change is detected. Now the change is detected. That means ng on changes is not only just identifying the changes actually. It includes binding the values. Yeah, it includes binding the values, assigning the value into the properties. And if there is any further change happened, that change also will be displayed. You can see that. We can print those details also. Just for your convenience sake, here I will print the previous values and current values also, so that you can even see that. The previous and current values. Let's put a data list with a data term. And here we will define as previous value. And data definition, we will print the previous value. and another data term, the current value, and we will define the current value. I am printing those also. So the current value, I am printing those also. And you can observe now, you can see that now, you can see here, initially, you can see that previous value, current value are empty. But observe carefully, if I enter some value, the previous change detected, previous value is empty, current value is J, am I right? Previous value is null, right? And current value is .j, right? So I entered some more option here. So John, J-O-H-N. J-O-H-N is the current value, but the previous value is J-O-H. If both are same, then no change detected. Both are same, no change detected, but both are not same. That is the reason change detected. I hope everyone understood with this mechanism. Huh? Right, I hope everyone understood with this mechanism. That means this is called change detection. This is called change detection. And this is very frequently asked question at a very experienced level people also in Angular interviews. Experienced peoples, right? Even for experienced people in interviews, this is very much asked. And if you can explain that scenario, so that's great, good, right? At a fresher level, sometimes they may just ask you, what do you know about it? But they may not go in depth about asking you how it detects the changes. It detects the changes. But for experienced people, they need to know which object is responsible for identifying the changes, which object detects the changes, which objects binds them and handles the options. We need to know about that. So this is one simple example to understand the change detection actually. This is an example for change detection. So the point here is simple change. That means under the change detection, all these will happen. Sets value to property. If there is no value set into property, then no change detected. Here itself, I will give the points also. If no value defined into property, then no change detected. If no value defined into property, then no change detected, right? So that is option. If there is a value, so and the value is binded to that property, that means if there is a value defined into property, and that is bound to element property, then change detected. So it detects the changes. And that's how it actually works. We can even define. So see, you can write any conditions here to identify them and use them. So I defined no change detected, but if already some value is attached to that, that means change occurred actually. That means some change is detected inside it. And you can see that. Now, many times while seeing this example, many people come with a doubt. So because they are a little bit confused. You see here, it says previous value is empty and current value is John. So that means change detected. Why previous value is empty? Can you tell me? Why previous value is empty? Can you tell me? Here, why previous value is empty? Can you tell me? Here the previous value means, it is talking about the previous value of child component. Understood? It is talking about the previous value of child component. Previous value of child component is having that John word. Is it having that John? Is that username is having that John? It is not having. That means the previous value of child component is empty, and parent is sending value into that. That means it is binding the value into it. Yes, right. Understood? Now why the previous value is shown as empty here? Everyone, why the previous value is shown here empty? Because previous value indicates that the child component value is empty. Previous value is empty because child component value is empty now. Is child component username is having any value? Is child component username is having any value? No, no. Parent component have to send value into child component. Am I right? Huh? Parent component have to send value into child component. Right, good. So in that case, until the parent component binds the value to child component. So child component is nothing and some value is sent into it. That means null is changed to some John. Am I right? Null is changed to John. Right? So that is the reason change detected. Understood, everyone? That is the reason change detected. Right, right. So this is a little bit a confusion for the people who missed out our previous concepts. If you are missing our previous concept, where the value is defined in parent or child, where the value is defined in parent or child, parent, then child value is having nothing and parent value is having something. Am I right? Yes, the parent value is binded to the child value. The parent value is binded to the child value. That means some change occurred in the child value. Understood? The child value changed from null to some value. Right? So that means change is detected. Change detected. Now if I am making some change here, so I remove that here. You see now the previous value was John and the current value is JOH. Right. So if why previous value will be JOH? The value coming from parent component. That means in this example, you need to understand that the parent component is having John, username is John, and the child component username is empty. Understood? Right? Then after that what happens is this value is binded to it. This value is binded to this. The value is binded to that. When the value is binded, then change detected. That means now the child value is set to John. Am I right? Huh? Child value is set to John. Understood? That means now Yeah, that's it. Now what happens is when I remove there, the previous value is John, but the current value is this. That's what it is showing there, right? So change detection is not just about the changes happening. It is not about the changes happening. It is about binding the values, configuring the values, defining the properties. All this comes under change detection only. Change detection only. So you need to be very good in understanding this, right? So this is one simple example. This is one simple example. So add two components. So we are adding some components. Add two components. So one is ng generate component send value. So skip test. Another one is ng generate component display value. So this is skip test. Okay. Yeah, that is the values we are defining. Obviously, right, at the time of value binding, the current value will be changed because the previous value is sent into the current value. Am I right? Right? Yeah. So next option here we have a send value or display value. First display value dot component dot ts. In this, what is the code I have written for display value component dot ts? This is all the code I have defined. I will configure that. So that is the display value related code. Okay, then display value dot component dot html. So, and the HTML code for the display value is to display the message and the changes occurring. So we need to display the message and the changes occurring. And the next we have send value dot component dot ts. In that we just have only one property which is there. Send value is having only one property, nothing much into that. And here send value dot component dot html, value dot component dot html. In that we have this data to display. So we are sending data to the child component and managing the data into the child component, right? This is an example of understanding about how the change detection works, right? Fine. Now, the other options like init and other options in different occasions we can use. While working with services, while working with configurations in different examples, I will show them. So in one example, we cannot handle everything in a proper way, depends on the requirement, right? So this is one regularly asked option. So I explained this complete process, how it actually works. Init, destroying, and all these are internally happening. Explicitly also we write in different examples. We will see how do we write, right? I hope everyone understood one major point of working with the components, component cycles, and everything. Now we can go into another concept, that is Angular pipes. Angular pipes, we have Angular services. So these are two major options, forms and routing like concepts. First, we will see what are Angular pipes now and how do we work with these pipes. That we will see in tomorrow's session, right? So tomorrow we will see this new concept. Okay, right. We will teach only what is required for general regular purpose.